invest in people. It is about influence. Now, as soon as you use the word influence, do you realize that leadership has absolutely nothing to do with positional authority? Do you recognize that? Have you all had experiences where you found yourself impacting people in a positive way? Yes, you have. Guess what? You were providing leadership at that moment. And what I want to do in this process is to have you see yourself differently than perhaps you ever have before. So let's go back to the description of leadership. What it's like when you're doing leadership, and I'm going to try to remember some of the words. So inspiring. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to call this conscious leadership. Okay, thank you. Conscious leadership, because this whole workshop, if that's what you want to call it, is about consciousness. And I'm a little biased. I like to take it one level further. I like to call it enlightened leadership. Because enlightened leadership is about turning on the light. Turning on the lights of awareness of who we are and who the people are around us and how much incredible power we have to work with. If we can just bring out 50% of the capabilities of the people around us. Do you agree with that? Does that make sense? And so, conscious leadership or enlightened leadership. Let's talk about the word. So, inspiring. I heard facilitator was another term. What else? What else? Give me some description. Empathy came up. Thank you. Empathy. What else?
Process of empowering.
Empowering. Thank you. Mentor. Thank you. Motivation. There is charisma. What else?
Vision.
Yeah, and here's the way to think about this even. Have somebody you really respect or admire who has influenced you. What are they like? How would you describe them? What other words?
Radiant.
Radiant? Okay.
Radiant. They practice what they preach.
You've got a word to do English, aren't you? Say it out loud and then let somebody else help translate. Okay, all right, we'll come back to you.
Role model.
Role model, okay? Positive. Thank you.
Humble.
What was that? Authentic. Thank you. Responsible. Do you yes. Generous. All right. Kind. You bet. Kind. Absolutely. Kind or kindness. Just as though. I understand. Anybody else have one? That's plenty. We could go on and on. We could take a lot of time doing it. Suggest, though, that that's a pretty description of conscious leadership. Now, raising your hand. How many? Please raise your hand. I'm not seeing hands. I'm not seeing hands. Okay. See how you do.
Perfect model.
The perfect model. Ourselves. Let's see how you do relate to this list. In your handout. Now, I hope the one thing I've never thought about is you may not come with pencils and pens and that kind of a thing. So that could be a little bit of a challenge. Do the best you can sharing this. What I invite you to do is open up this. Let me grab it so I'll know what it's like. Okay, the first one is just for model leader characteristics. The personal leader characteristics is where you like it now. I would like you to write down 3 of the elements of the conscious leader. Okay? That's at the top of the page. Bottom of the page. Things that are your weakest areas. Then now, take a couple minutes to do that, and you need to take a couple minutes where you see yourself areas, and I do invite you guys to do this process too. Please. You are waiting for that. Okay. All right. I invite everyone to do this. Doing this mentally is not just sitting there watching it happen and watching it, not the same as doing the exercise, being part of the experience. So, I want you to mark, how you see yourself on the scale for the highest strengths, and also for the weakest areas. Put a little mark on the scale how you see yourself. Now I'm going to wander around just a little bit, just so I'll know where you are in the process. It is not something that you need to share with anyone else. It's a personal thing for you. If you want to later, fine, with a good friend or something. But this is not a test. This is an experience that's going to invite you to see things a bit differently. And so it's not about sharing or worrying about what you put versus what somebody else put, that kind of a thing. For the sake of time, I'm going to invite you to just put 2 things at the top and 2 things at the bottom, and then mark those scales. It's really key to mark the scale. Mm-hmm. The which determination? I put another one, you mean? Another one? Sure. All right, I'll put it up there. We're going to add another word to the list. Two at the top, 2 at the bottom. Mark the scales, how you see yourself on the best strengths and the weakest areas. I will wait until you've marked the scales of how you see yourself. This is a really key part of the process. It's worth the time we're taking. And it's important that you be honest. Wherever you are, mark those scales. That's the most important part of the whole process. Don't worry too much about, is this me or is this not me? Just down there and mark those scales. Okay. Okay, mark the scales. where you are in terms of writing down the words, please mark the scale now. That's such a critical part of the process. So get that done, and we will move on and to this process. Scientists here, medical doctors here. There are lots of PhDs here who know a lot more about the mind than I do. And I'm not pretending that I know a lot about the mind. But one thing I'm really sure about, there are at least two different ways that our mind works. There's the part of our mind that I consider analytical. Can you relate to analytical mind? It's the judgmental one. It's the computer in the head. It's it really is just like a computer. It's sequential thinking, right? Serial thinking. That's the analytical side of it. Then there's the intuitive side of the mind. By the way, I don't know where all this happens, and I don't really care. What I care about, though, is the recognition. And by the way, it doesn't mean it's not important to know where it is. I'm just saying it's not important to the process that we're in right now. But what is important to realize is there's another whole side of our mind that I call the intuitive side, the intuitive mind. And how would you describe the intuitive mind? What are some of the descriptors you might have?
Holistic.
Free.
Free, I love that word.
Holistic.
Holistic. Creative. Emotional. Spiritual. Did I hear another one? Anticipatory. Instead of sequential, it's sort of random, all over the place in terms of this thinking. The creativity, the innovation, the insight. When you see a cartoon and it has a light bulb come on, right? That's the intuitive side, right? That's what this side. Wow, I just had an idea. Happens to us every day, right? We all of a sudden. Now, by the way, I'm just going to let you know that a little later today, after lunch, to meet with you, anyone that wants to talk more about leadership and what are some of the things that we can do to invite ourselves to be more into that open, free process more often. All right? And from a leadership perspective, what are some of the things that we could do that invite the people around us to be more often in that creative space? Which, by the way, I'd also suggest is a very positive space, because there's not the judgment going on around it. Now, there's one dilemma about the analytical side of the mind. One dilemma. There might be more, but I know there's at least one, okay? And it has to do with the fact that the analytical mind operates, I would suggest, just like a computer on your desk. Just like the computer, you have tablets and so forth with you. Or the analytical mind tends to operate that way. Now, there is an issue with that. It has to do with the fact that the computer is programmed. Now, for instance, suppose you work for a company that every 2 weeks or something like that, they a check to you. Is that a good term to pay you? Is that check? Is that a good term? Yeah. All right, they print out a check. Now, the computer calculates your paycheck. Suppose the computer were somehow misprogrammed. Suppose that computer was misprogrammed. 1 plus 1 equals 3. And then it used that algorithm to calculate your payroll check. It happened that you added 1 and 1 and got the wrong number. So your payroll check is going to be wrong, right? Yeah. But suppose, Guy, it was calculating your taxes when it did that. All right. So it would be incorrect. How long would it take the computer to know that it was wrong? It would never know? It would never know? Why is that? How long would it take you to know? Right, instantly, as soon as you look at it, right? But the computer would never know. By definition, computer being programmable means it is deceivable. Do you know that word deceivable? Is that a word that you understand? Okay, I just don't know the English, the translation, how it works. But by definition, programmable is deceivable. So if it's programmed incorrectly, it will never know. It doesn't know that it's programmed incorrectly. Now, I would suggest, in fact, let me ask you this. Have you ever discovered that you have had a bad programming error? Have you ever discovered that there was a belief you had? See, the beliefs are the programming, aren't they? The beliefs that we have in our analytical mind, I'll call it, are the programs that we're running on. Is it possible that there are some deceptive programs in there? It's not likely for Heather, but it's possible. Yeah. Well, I would suggest that there is one way that we have likely, that 94% of us in this group have been deceived. I would suggest to you that it is incredibly limiting for you. That it is literally holding you back from being the most that you can be. Would you like to know what it is? Yeah? Yeah? Why would you?
Because we want to be the best.
Yeah. Okay, see, but how would knowing it change anything? What is it about programmability of the computer or the mind? We can change the program, right? If we discover a bad piece of code, a bad piece of programming, replace the program with something that is real, that is true. Now, by the way, can anyone share an example of something that you believed maybe early in life and somewhere along the way realized it was not true, something you thought was true for years maybe, and you discovered it wasn't true after all?
I just discovered that last
Wow! All right.
I can quit smoking.
And you had a belief that you could not. Is that what I'm hearing?
I didn't want to. I still don't want
Okay.
to. I know I...
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Who else? I heard one over here. Kid that you now know is not true. What?
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus? What about Santa Claus?
I used to think there is a Santa Claus, and now I know that it's not.
What? There's no Santa Claus? Oh no!
But our kids around.
This is tragic. We have to stop this now. Okay. Yeah. Was it painful to discover, by the way? Was it painful? Yeah, it was painful. Okay. So, there is this one deception. And I'd like to introduce it to you. How do I want to introduce this to you? do you measure darkness? You measure. Makes sense? Okay, I'd like to suggest something then. I'd like to suggest there's no such thing as darkness. There is only light. Measure from 0. Less than no light. And yet, have we really thought about it that way? We tend to think of light and dark as kind of two different things. Now, if that's true, how do you measure? If there's no such thing as darkness, we can only measure light. How do you measure weakness? Strength or lack of strength. I would like to suggest there is no such thing as weakness. It's impossible to have weakness. We can only have strength. We can have none of a strength, or we can have some degree of it, but we cannot have less than no strength. But is that the way we've tended to think about it? Don't we more likely tend to think about there are strengths, we have strengths, and we have weaknesses, right? Well, let me ask you a question. What happens when you realize you've got a weakness and you want to fix that weakness? You ever try to do that? You ever failed at that? Have you ever had a realization, okay, I've got a really bad habit and I want to stop that. I see it as a weakness. And so I'm going to fix that. I'm going to stop doing that habit, whatever it is. And guess what? What happens? You start seeing it more and more and more. As soon as you focus the attention on the bad habit, it shows up more and more and more. It's just there. What I invite us to realize, and literally, we put more attention on it, it puts more energy on it, and it appears as if we've got that weakness, just more and more. If instead we shift our mindset to recognize the truth that there is no such thing as weakness, and to recognize that if we can see it as a strength, we can now build on that strength. That makes sense to you?
Yeah.
What I'd like to invite you to do is to go back to the exercise on the paper. And on that exercise at the bottom of the page, there is a high probability that many people in the group put down some things on below 0. All right? And think about it. If you poured energy into, I'm gonna flip this up here, see if I can draw an example. Okay, that's the scale that you had, right? Now, in the real world, as being, let's say that empathy is one of the things that we had up here, right? Suppose you see yourself as a -2 in empathy, and you want to fix that empathy. You want to fix this, right? So you pour energy into it, which means you pay more and more attention to the fact that you have empathy. And so you put +3 energy, you pour energy into it, what do you get? -6. And that's really true in the sense that it just shows up more and more often that you have no empathy. But look what happens when you shift the scale. You rewrite the scale. The scale is now 0 to 10. What's that? What was is now a 3. Real. Do you have some empathy? Of course you have some empathy. It's a matter of degree. But from the perspective of you already have some, you can now develop all the empathy you want to. When you pour energy, positive energy times that positive 3, that goes to like a +9. You know, you recognize you already have some of it, you start looking for indications you have, you put energy into it, you get more and more empathy. You get to grow that thing that you thought was a weakness, when in fact it's just simply a lesser strength. So please go back and change the scale. Change the scale from from -5 to +5 to 0 to 10. If you would. And change, particularly on those things at the bottom of the page. If you had yourself at 0 on the previous scale, it's now a +5, right? If you had yourself at a -2, it's now a +3. If you had yourself at a -4, it's now a +1. You've got some of that strength. Now, does that feel different? Does it feel different?
Yeah.
Okay? All right? Well, now, if it feels different, to change the scale on a silly piece of paper, imagine the impact it can have on your life if you literally reset your 0 in time and recognize there's nowhere in your life that you don't have degrees of strengths. And once you recognize that, you can develop any strength you want to. Do you still have some strengths that are way up on the positive end of the scale and some that are down at the lower end? Absolutely. And it's probable that your high performance is going to be where those strengths are so strong naturally? Absolutely. But suppose you find yourself in a leadership role where you really need some capabilities that you just haven't developed yet. Do you see the value of recognizing you've got it already? It's just a matter of degree. What is about this? What's coming up? We can change our state. We can change our state. Scale, yes. We can change. I would almost suggest to you, now, by the way, that anyone has set up in high or the United States or anywhere else, programmed us on purpose to. I don't think that's the case. Happened anyway. I'll be honest with you, I think our education. And was it the teacher? Talking about the intent of a teacher or even probably the school system. This is just what has happened. And it has limited us from being the most that we can. We are powerful beings. There is virtually no limit. And the first steps in being the most that we can be, the real power are about this situation. We only have strength. And from that new, this is a paradigm shift. And perhaps in the way, now, 6% statistically, probably already about it. But on the limit. Let me check the time. 5 minutes. About any of running up here? Kiki. All right.
For this brilliant exposure. Yes. I had a deception. Time of Galilee. We have catching up with that. What I was going to a point recognizing that but and I thought mathematician to NP young in high school, and she would come and say, oh, it was so difficult. Whatever you can, and what I was able to meet time word, but you tell it is best by doing that. I'm just this is something that works. Concept that yes, it's
Address that first question, because I want to wrap up with and by the way, my sense is that morning, seeing it a little differently, processing. I think, we 5 years we've seen, and I would like to you reset your way. At other people. That. Body. Have strengths. On they are. Their lives. What in life. The reason is because now in our lives. Two from our best prepare essence the who and I hope having somebody it just reminded me I really the process many as well. So one more question for you. Of the none of. Please do that. of the elements of the leader that we have none of? None. Yeah. Another question then. Now realize that this leader that does in please stand up. Stand up. Just enlighten. It's real. Never mind.